The first thing Alpha King Kael Ashbourne saw after winning the bloodiest war of his life was not another enemy. It was a bride. She lay alone in the snow, wearing the wedding gown of the man Kael had just defeated. Her hands were frozen. Blood stained the white fabric beneath her. Every breath looked like it might be her last. His warriors shouted for him to walk away. She belonged to the enemy. She deserved the same fate as everyone who had fought beside her. Kael almost listened. Then the winter wind shifted. One scent reached him. His wolf did not growl. It bowed. Mate, his greatest enemy's bride, was the one woman fate had chosen for him. Nothing about it made sense. Before he could understand how such a thing was possible, the dying woman opened her eyes. She grabbed his cloak with the last strength she had left. Her lips barely moved. They stole my baby. Then she slipped into unconsciousness. There had never been any report of a child. There had never been any mention of a baby born during the war. Someone was hiding something. Something worth murdering an innocent woman for. Kael looked from the bride to the army, waiting for his command. If he left her there, he would keep his kingdom. If he carried her home, he would become the protector of his deadliest enemy. He reached down anyway. And in that single impossible moment, the victorious Alpha King unknowingly rescued the woman who would expose the greatest lie every werewolf kingdom had ever believed. The snow refused to stop falling. It buried the dead without mercy. Broken swords disappeared beneath white drifts. Torn banners froze where they had fallen. Blood slowly vanished beneath fresh snow until the battlefield looked peaceful again. Only the silence told the truth. Thousands had died here before the sun disappeared behind the mountains. Alpha King Kael Ashbourne walked through that silence alone. His warriors celebrated their victory behind him. Fires burned across the ruined enemy camp. The war was finally over. Alpha Darius Blackmore had fallen. The kingdom was safe again. Yet Kael felt no joy. Victory had cost too much. Every step reminded him of another warrior who would never return home. The cold wind pushed against his heavy black cloak as he searched the battlefield one last time. A king never left before making certain every danger had ended. Then he saw it. A thin line of crimson stretched across untouched snow. It did not belong there. Everything else had frozen into stillness. This trail looked fresh. Someone had moved after the battle was over. Kael followed it without hesitation. The trail wound between shattered wagons and fallen horses until it ended beside a cluster of snow-covered pines. Half buried beneath the drifting snow lay a young woman dressed in a white wedding gown trimmed with silver fur. The gown had once been beautiful. Now it was torn and stained with blood. Snowflakes rested gently across her long silver blonde hair. Her pale face looked almost lifeless. Only the faint rise of her chest proved she still clung to life. Kael stopped breathing for a moment. He recognized her instantly. Lyra Frostvale, the bride of Alpha Darius. The woman every kingdom believed had willingly married his greatest enemy. Every painful memory returned at once. He remembered hearing about the grand wedding that united two powerful bloodlines. He remembered hearing whispers that she had rejected her true destiny to become another Alpha's queen. He had dismissed the story as another cruel lesson about fate. Yet now fate had placed that same woman before him. His wolf suddenly stirred inside him. Then it roared. The scent reached him like a lightning strike. Mate. The word echoed through every part of his soul. Impossible. His fists tightened. His heart pounded harder than it ever had during battle. No. This could not happen. She belonged to another Alpha. She wore another man's wedding ring. She carried another kingdom's scent. His wolf refused every argument. Mate. Protect her. Kael closed his eyes for one brief moment as two instincts fought inside him. The Alpha King demanded justice. The wolf demanded mercy. The wind settled. Lyra moved. Only slightly. Her frozen fingers twitched against the snow. Kael dropped to one knee beside her. Blood covered her side beneath the torn gown. Deep cuts marked her shoulders. Bruises darkened her wrists. None of those injuries looked like battle wounds. They looked deliberate. Someone had wanted her to suffer before leaving her here to die. Her eyelids fluttered. Ice blue eyes slowly opened. For a heartbeat she stared without recognition. Then she saw his face. Fear filled her eyes. Not hatred. Not anger. Fear. She tried to pull herself away, but her body no longer obeyed her. Her lips trembled. You came too late. The words barely reached him. Kael frowned. What happened here? She swallowed painfully. They found him. Who? Her breathing became uneven. They took my baby. Kael stared at her. Baby. The word felt wrong. No reports had mentioned a child. No kingdom had spoken about an heir. Had Darius hidden a son from the world? Or was something far more dangerous hidden beneath that single broken sentence? Lyra reached toward him with shaking fingers. They will kill him. Her hand fell back into the snow. Her eyes closed. She lost consciousness once again. Kael remained frozen. Commander Rowan finally caught up with him and stopped several steps away. His face changed the instant he recognized the woman. My king! His voice carried disbelief. Leave her! Kael did not answer. She was Darius Blackmore's bride. Still no answer. The war is over. Silence. Rowan stepped closer. Our people watched their sons die because of that kingdom. Kael looked down at Lyra. Snow continued gathering across her body. If he walked away, now she would not survive another hour. His wolf growled deep inside him. Protect her. Rowan lowered his voice. Do not make this mistake. Kael finally stood. Then he bent down and lifted Lyra into his arms. She felt frighteningly light, almost weightless, as though life itself had already begun leaving her. Rowan stared in shock. The soldiers behind him fell completely silent. Hundreds of warriors watched their fearless king carry the enemy bride through the frozen battlefield. No one understood. Neither did Kael. The journey back to Ashbourne Castle felt endless. Snowstorms blocked the mountain roads. The horses struggled through deep drifts. Kael refused every offer to hand Lyra to someone else. He carried her himself. Every time her breathing weakened, his wolf became restless. Every time she shivered, he tightened the cloak around her shoulders. The scent of blood slowly mixed with the scent of winter pine. Hours later, the gates of Ashbourne Castle finally opened. The celebration waiting inside died instantly. Servants stopped walking. Guards exchanged confused glances. Whispers spread faster than fire. The enemy bride. Why is she alive? Has the king lost his mind? Kael ignored every word. He walked straight through the great hall toward the royal healing chambers. Elder Celine looked up from a table covered with herbs and glass bottles. The old healer rarely showed surprise. This time she did. She hurried forward. What have you brought me? A life worth saving. She gently examined Lyra. The room became quiet. Her fingers paused over several wounds. Her expression darkened. These cuts were not made in battle. Kael looked at her sharply. What do you mean? They were made afterward. She slowly lifted the torn fabric. Someone tortured her. Cold anger spread through Kael's chest. Darius was dead, so who had wanted his bride silenced? Celine continued treating the wounds with calm, practiced hands. Hot water steamed inside iron bowls. Fresh bandages slowly covered the blood-soaked skin. Medicinal herbs filled the room with their sharp, earthy scent. Night settled over the castle. Still Kael remained beside the bed. He told himself he stayed because he needed answers. His wolf knew the truth. Hours passed before Lyra finally opened her eyes again. She looked around the unfamiliar room. The fire, the stone walls, the candles. Then she saw Kael. For several long moments, neither of them spoke. She understood where she was. So this is your castle. It is. You should have left me there. You were dying. I was supposed to. Those words struck him harder than he expected. She slowly looked toward the fire. I have nowhere left to go. Kael stepped closer. You said someone took your child. Fear immediately returned to her face. She looked toward the closed door before answering. They are still hunting him. Who are they? I cannot tell you. You are under my protection. She gave him a sad smile. No one can protect anyone from them. The room fell silent. Only the fire continued speaking. Then something impossible happened. The wind outside changed direction. It carried her scent through the room. The bond between them grew stronger. Lyra slowly looked into his eyes. You know. Kael remained silent. Tears gathered inside her eyes. The moon goddess has a cruel heart. His jaw tightened. You married another alpha. Pain crossed her face. You think I wanted that? Before he could answer, the chamber doors burst open. Several royal council members entered without permission. Their leader pointed directly at Lyra. She is the enemy. Another elder stepped forward. Thousands of our sons died because of her kingdom. A third elder looked directly at Kael. Your Majesty, this woman deserves execution before sunrise. The room grew heavy. Every servant lowered their eyes. Every guard waited for the king's command. Lyra did not defend herself. She simply lowered her head. She looked like someone who had already accepted death long ago. Kael watched her shaking hands. Then he faced his council. My decision is final. The eldest elder frowned. You would protect your enemy. Kael's gray eyes became colder than winter. I protect anyone who enters my kingdom under my word. The council left in open anger. Their footsteps echoed through the castle halls. The whispers outside only grew louder. Some called their king merciful. Others called him weak. Neither mattered. Late that night, after everyone else had gone, Lyra suddenly reached for Kael with surprising strength. Her frightened eyes searched his face. She whispered one sentence before darkness claimed her once more. My son is still alive. Kael stood frozen beside her bed. Somewhere beyond the castle walls, a child was alive. Someone powerful wanted that child dead. And for reasons Kael could not yet understand, he had just become part of a secret that was far more dangerous than the war he had already won. Morning arrived without warmth. The sun struggled behind thick gray clouds, casting a pale light across Ashbourne Castle. Snow still covered every tower and courtyard. From the highest walls, the kingdom looked peaceful. Inside those walls, peace no longer existed. Word had spread before dawn. The Alpha King had carried the enemy's bride into his own castle. Servants whispered as they walked through the halls. Warriors questioned one another in low voices. Noble families gathered in corners, each telling a different version of the same unbelievable story. Some believed Lyra had bewitched the king. Others claimed Kael had secretly planned to use her as leverage against the remaining enemy clans. No one imagined the truth. Kael stood alone on the castle balcony, overlooking the frozen valley. His hands rested against the cold stone railing while the bitter wind swept through his dark hair. He had barely closed his eyes all night. Every time he tried, he heard Lyra's broken whisper again. My son is still alive. The words refused to leave him. A child hidden during the war changed everything. If the boy truly existed, someone had erased every trace of him before the battle even began. Commander Rowan approached quietly. The council has gathered. Kael never looked away from the valley. I expected they would. They are demanding judgment. They will have it. Rowan hesitated before speaking again. They are not asking for a trial. Kael slowly turned toward him. They want her executed. Silence settled between them. Rowan had followed Kael through countless wars. He trusted his king with his life. Yet even he struggled to understand why the enemy's bride still breathed. Kael finally walked toward the council chamber without another word. The massive wooden doors opened. Every noble rose from their seat. No one smiled. The air felt heavier than armor. The eldest council members stepped forward. Your Majesty! Kael remained standing. Speak! The old man looked directly into his eyes. The woman you rescued must die. Several voices immediately agreed. She belongs to Blackmoor. She carries enemy blood. She cannot remain inside these walls. Another elder struck his staff against the stone floor. Our warriors demand justice. Kael listened without interruption. Only when every voice had fallen silent did he answer. Justice is not murder. The room erupted. She married our enemy. She betrayed the moon goddess. She betrayed you. One sentence echoed louder than all the others. She rejected her true mate. Those words reached deeper than anyone realized. Kael's wolf stirred again. His jaw tightened. He finally raised one hand. The chamber fell silent. You know nothing about what happened. The eldest elder narrowed his eyes. We know enough. No. Kael's voice became colder. You know the story you were told. Before anyone could answer, the chamber doors opened once more. 2 royal guards entered. Your Majesty! What is it? The woman is awake. Kael turned immediately. He ignored every protest behind him. The council continued shouting as he walked away. Their anger followed him through every corridor. Inside the healing chamber, the fire burned softly. Lyra sat against the wooden headboard wrapped in thick fur blankets. Her face remained pale, but life had returned to her eyes. She stared quietly through the window as snow drifted across the castle gardens. She looked peaceful until she heard the door. The moment she saw Kael, Every trace of calm disappeared. You should not be here. Kael stopped beside the bed. This is my castle. She gave a faint smile. Exactly. Neither spoke for several moments. The silence between them felt strange. Not empty. Heavy. Filled with questions neither wished to ask. Kael finally broke it. You told me your son lives. Her eyes immediately lowered. I should not have said that. Was it true? She closed her eyes. Some truths bring death. I decide who dies here. No. She slowly looked back at him. You do not know the people hunting him. Kael saw genuine fear inside her eyes. Not fear for herself. For the child. That realization unsettled him. You would rather die than tell me where he is. Without hesitation she answered. Yes. The certainty in her voice surprised him. A mother willing to sacrifice everything for one child. His respect for her grew, despite himself. Suddenly the chamber doors opened again. This time nearly the entire royal court entered behind the council elders. Servants, generals, noble families, warriors. Word had spread that Lyra was awake. The room filled within seconds. The eldest elder pointed toward her. Let every witness hear the truth. Lyra slowly rose despite the pain in her body. She stood alone before dozens of hostile faces. The elder looked directly at her. Did you willingly marry Alpha Darius? The room waited. Lyra remained silent. Answer! She slowly nodded. A wave of angry whispers swept across the chamber. The elder smiled. You hear it yourselves. Another noble stepped forward. Did you reject your fated mate? Silence. Lyra looked toward Kael. For one brief moment their eyes met. Pain passed between them like an invisible blade. Then she whispered, Yes. The chamber exploded. Traitor. Shame. Disgrace. Those words came from every direction. Lyra never defended herself. She accepted every insult. Kael watched her shoulders remain straight despite the hatred surrounding her. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. A woman protecting herself would argue. She did not. A guilty person begged. She did not. Instead, she stood like someone carrying a burden too heavy to explain. The elder turned toward Kael. The moon goddess herself has witnessed her confession. He lifted one hand toward Lyra. Reject her. Every voice inside the chamber fell silent. Kael looked at Lyra. His wolf fought against him. Every instinct screamed to claim her. Every law demanded he reject her. His kingdom watched. His people waited. Finally he spoke. I reject the bond. The words echoed through the chamber. Lyra closed her eyes. A single tear slipped down her cheek. She did not cry. She did not scream. She simply accepted another wound life had given her. Even Kael felt something inside himself break. His wolf howled with unbearable pain. The bond weakened. Not destroyed. Only wounded. The court celebrated. The council smiled. Justice had been served. Or so they believed. Kael turned away before anyone noticed the regret already forming inside him. That evening darkness settled across the castle. Snow covered the windows. Torches flickered along empty corridors. Most of the castle slept. Someone did not. A hooded figure slipped through the shadows without making a sound. The stranger carried no torch, only a narrow blade that reflected the pale moonlight. Step by step the figure approached the healing chamber. Inside the room Lyra sat awake. She had not slept since the public rejection. Her fingers tightly held a small silver necklace hidden beneath her blanket. It was the only thing she had managed to keep from the battlefield. The only thing connecting her to the truth. She heard something. A floorboard creaked. Her breathing stopped. The chamber door slowly opened. A dark figure rushed inside. Steel flashed toward her. Lyra threw herself sideways, just as the blade struck the bed where her heart had been seconds earlier. She screamed. Guards rushed through the corridor. The assassin fled toward the window. Before escaping, he tore the silver necklace from Lyra's hand. She reached after it. No! The stranger disappeared into the snowy night. Kael burst into the room moments later with Rowan close behind. Lyra sat shaking on the floor, her blanket stained with fresh blood from a cut across her arm. Kael knelt beside her. What did they take? Her face turned completely pale. She looked toward the broken window, then back at Kael. Her voice barely existed. They have a necklace! Kael frowned. What necklace? Lyra's eyes filled with despair. The one thing that could prove who I really am. The fire crackled softly. Outside, the assassin vanished into the endless snow, carrying a secret powerful enough to destroy kingdoms. And somewhere in the darkness someone smiled, because the hunt had only just begun. The broken window remained open long after the assassin had vanished into the storm. Cold wind swept through the healing chamber, scattering ashes from the fireplace across the stone floor. Snowflakes drifted inside and settled around Lyra's feet. She did not notice them. Her trembling eyes remained fixed on the darkness beyond the castle walls, as if she could still see the shadow that had stolen the only object she had protected with her life. Kael slowly stood beside her. His instincts screamed that this attack had not been the work of a desperate thief. The assassin had ignored jewels, weapons, and gold. He had come for one thing alone: the silver necklace. Whatever secret it carried was worth risking death inside the most heavily guarded castle in the kingdom. Commander Rowan returned only moments later, breathing hard from the chase. Snow covered his shoulders and boots. He escaped. Kael did not look at him. How? He knew every hidden passage through the outer wall. Someone inside the castle must have helped him. Those words settled over the room like another storm. A traitor, not outside the kingdom. Inside it. Kael turned toward the guards waiting at the door. Lock every gate. The guards bowed. No one leaves until I say so. Within minutes the castle changed completely. Bells echoed across the towers. Heavy iron gates slammed shut. Armed warriors filled every corridor. Servants were questioned. Nobles complained. No one understood why the king had placed his own castle under lockdown. Only Kael understood one thing. The enemy had entered his home without fear. That meant this battle had never truly ended. Behind him, Elder Selene quietly approached Lyra. She gently cleaned the shallow cut on her arm before wrapping it with fresh linen. You were lucky. Lyra gave a tired smile. No. Her voice was soft. They missed because they were in a hurry. Selene looked at her carefully. They were afraid of being caught. Lyra slowly shook her head. They already had what they came for. Kael listened without speaking. Every answer only created another question. Finally he stepped closer. What was inside that necklace? Lyra lowered her eyes. If I tell you now, more people will die. Kael's patience began to fade. You keep asking me to trust you while hiding everything. She looked directly into his eyes. I am hiding it because I trust you. He frowned. I do not understand. You will. Her answer carried absolute certainty. But not today. Before Kael could speak again, Elder Selene suddenly froze. Her eyes rested on something beneath the blanket covering Lyra. A small silver thread remained tangled in the fabric. The necklace chain had snapped during the struggle. Only a tiny piece remained. Selene carefully lifted it. Something unusual caught the firelight. She narrowed her eyes. This is not ordinary silver. Kael looked closer. Tiny markings had been carved into the broken metal. So small they were almost invisible. Ancient symbols. Selene's face slowly lost its color. Where did you get this? Lyra hesitated. My mother placed it around my neck before she died. The old healer's hands began to shake. Kael had known Selene for many years. He had never seen fear in her eyes. Until now. What do those markings mean? Selene remained silent for several long moments. Finally she whispered, I hoped I would never see this again. Kael waited. The symbols belonged to the moon crown. The room became completely still. Even Rowan stopped breathing. The moon crown was not merely a legend. It was the oldest royal bloodline in werewolf history. According to ancient stories, every Alpha King had once sworn loyalty to that family before it disappeared generations ago. Most believed the entire bloodline had been wiped out. Selene slowly looked toward Lyra. Who was your mother? Lyra closed her eyes. I never knew her real name. What did she call herself? Only Elena. Selene's breathing became uneven. Tears quietly filled her eyes. I knew an Elena. Kael stared at her. You never told me. Because everyone believed she was dead. The old healer slowly sat down as memories, long buried, returned to the surface. 25 years ago, Queen Elena disappeared with her newborn daughter on the night the royal palace burned. Every witness claimed both died in the fire. She looked at Lyra once more. But if your mother survived... She could not finish the sentence. Lyra remained silent. She had lived her entire life believing she was the daughter of ordinary nobles. Now even that truth was beginning to crack. Kael watched everything unfold with growing disbelief. If Selene was right, then Lyra was not simply the enemy's bride. She belonged to the oldest royal family ever known. Someone had hidden her identity since birth. Someone had erased an entire bloodline. And someone was still hunting her. Later that afternoon, Kael walked alone through the frozen royal archives beneath the castle. Dust-covered shelves filled with ancient scrolls forgotten by time. Torches flickered against damp stone walls as he searched for anything connected to the moon crown. Hours passed. Then he found it, a weathered book locked inside an iron chest. The pages were brittle with age. Many had been torn away. One illustration remained untouched. Kael stopped walking. The drawing showed an ancient queen wearing a silver crown unlike any crown worn by modern rulers. Beside her stood a young warrior. Tall, dark hair, gray eyes. The resemblance struck him immediately. The warrior looked almost exactly like him. His pulse quickened. Below the illustration, a single sentence had survived. Only the blood of the first Wolf King may stand beside the moon crown. Kael read the line again, and again. Something deep inside him stirred. A strange pressure built behind his eyes. His vision blurred. Without warning, a memory flashed across his mind. A little girl laughing beside a frozen lake. Silver blonde hair dancing in the wind. Ice blue eyes shining beneath winter sunlight. A small hand reaching toward him. Then darkness. The memory vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Kael staggered backward. His breathing became uneven. He pressed one hand against the stone wall. What was that? It had felt real. Not imagination. Memory. Yet he could not remember ever meeting Lyra as a child. The pain inside his head grew stronger, then disappeared, leaving only confusion behind. Far above the archives, Lyra stood alone beside the castle window, watching snow fall over the valley. Her thoughts remained fixed on one person. Her son. Was he still alive? Was he cold? Hungry? Afraid? A tear slowly rolled down her cheek. She wiped it away before anyone could see. She had promised herself never to break. Not until she found him. Suddenly, she sensed someone behind her. She turned. Elder Selene stood quietly in the doorway. The old healer smiled with deep sadness. I have a question. Lyra nodded. Selene walked closer. Did your mother ever sing to you? Lyra's eyes widened. How do you know that? Answer me. Lyra slowly closed her eyes. Then she softly sang a few gentle lines of an old lullaby that had stayed with her since childhood. The moment the song ended, tears streamed freely down Selene's face. There is no doubt anymore. Lyra looked at her in confusion. Selene gently held both of her hands. You are Queen Elena's daughter. You are the last living princess of the Moon Crown. Lyra felt the world stop. Every belief she had carried throughout her life shattered in a single heartbeat. Before she could speak another word, the castle bells suddenly rang with terrifying urgency. Once. Twice. Again. War horns echoed across the frozen valley. Commander Rowan burst into the chamber. His face had turned pale. My king. Kael hurried toward him. What happened? Rowan struggled to catch his breath. Our scouts have returned. What did they find? Rowan looked directly at Lyra, then back at Kael. There is a child alive in the northern forest. He matches the description the woman gave. The room fell silent. Rowan swallowed hard before speaking the final words. And the soldiers protecting him are carrying the banner of a kingdom that was destroyed 25 years ago. Kael and Lyra looked at one another. Neither spoke, because both realized the same terrifying truth. The past they thought had been buried beneath snow had just begun to rise again. The war horns continued to echo across the frozen mountains long after Commander Rowan delivered his report. Every sound rolled through the valley like thunder, waking the entire kingdom before sunrise. Torches appeared along the castle walls. Warriors rushed across the courtyards, fastening armor over heavy winter clothing. Horses stamped against the frozen ground as stable hands prepared them for another journey into the snow. Only hours earlier, everyone believed the war had ended. Now a single child had become more important than any battlefield victory. Inside the royal chamber, Kael stood over a large map spread across an ancient oak table. His finger rested on the northern forest where Rowan's scouts had discovered a hidden camp. They are moving, Rowan said quietly. Kael looked up. How far? Our scouts believe they are heading toward the Frostvale Mountains. Kael understood immediately. Once they reached those mountains, they would disappear into endless caves and forgotten tunnels where no army could follow. We leave now. Rowan nodded. I have already chosen our fastest riders. Kael turned toward the doorway. No army. Rowan frowned. My king. If too many warriors ride north, every spy in the kingdom will know where we are going. He fastened the black wolf cloak across his shoulders. We move quietly. Before leaving, he looked toward Lyra. She had remained silent since hearing the scout's report. Hope and fear battled across her face. If it is him, Kael said softly, I will bring him home. Lyra stepped closer. Her voice trembled despite every effort to remain strong. You do not understand. Then help me understand. She lowered her eyes. If they realize you are coming, they will kill him before allowing anyone to rescue him. Kael studied her face. You know these people. She answered after a long silence. I survived them. Those 4 words carried more pain than an entire lifetime of stories. Kael asked nothing else. Within minutes, he and Rowan disappeared beyond the castle gates with only 6 trusted warriors riding behind them. Heavy snow swallowed their tracks almost as quickly as the horses crossed the valley. Back inside the castle, Elder Celine watched Lyra pace beside the fire. You should rest. I cannot. You have not slept. My son is somewhere out there. Her voice broke for the first time. I do not even know if he remembers my face. Celine gently placed one hand on her shoulder. A mother's love is never forgotten. Lyra closed her eyes. I pray you are right. Far to the north, Kael's riders crossed frozen rivers and dense forests buried beneath deep snow. The journey grew more dangerous with every passing hour. Wolves watched from distant hills. Broken watchtowers appeared between the trees like ghosts from another age. Near sunset, Rowan suddenly raised one hand. Everyone stopped. Fresh footprints covered the snow ahead. Not one person. Many. Children. Women. Armed guards. Someone had passed only minutes earlier. Kael climbed from his horse and touched one of the tracks. Still warm. They are close. The riders continued on foot. No one spoke. Even the wind seemed to disappear. Then they heard it. A child laughing. Soft. Brief. Alive. Kael looked toward Rowan. Both men moved silently through the pine trees until they reached the edge of a hidden valley. There it was. A small camp hidden beneath towering cliffs. Simple tents stood around glowing fires. Families wrapped in thick winter furs shared food while armed warriors guarded every entrance. They were not soldiers preparing for battle. They were refugees trying to survive. Near the largest fire, a small boy chased a white snow hare through the camp. Golden curls escaped beneath his fur hood. Bright gray eyes sparkled with innocent joy. Kael froze. Something inside his chest tightened. The boy laughed again. The sound felt strangely familiar. Rowan whispered, Could this be him? Kael never answered. His eyes remained fixed on the child. Then another figure stepped into view. A young woman gently lifted the boy into her arms before wrapping him inside her cloak. She looked around cautiously, protectively, like someone who expected danger every second. Kael realized the camp already knew they were being hunted. Suddenly one of the guards looked directly toward the trees. He shouted. Every sword left its sheath. They found us! Chaos exploded across the valley. Families ran toward the cliffs. Children cried. Warriors formed a defensive line. Kael stepped into the open with both hands raised. We are not your enemy. No one lowered their weapons. The woman holding the child quickly disappeared toward a narrow mountain path. Kael's heart pounded. He could not let them escape. He ran. Snow flew beneath his boots as he climbed after them. The mountain trail narrowed until only one person could pass at a time. The woman reached the top first. She turned. A dagger flashed into her hand. Stay back! Kael stopped several steps away. I came to help. You are an Alpha King. I am. Then you are exactly why this child is in danger. She tightened her grip on the little boy. He belongs with his mother. The woman's expression changed. You know who his mother is? I do. Silence followed. Then she asked the question Kael feared most. Does Lyra still live? She does. Tears instantly filled the woman's eyes. Thank the moon goddess. The little boy looked curiously at Kael. Without fear. Without hesitation. He smiled. The sight struck Kael harder than any sword ever had. For reasons he could not explain, the child felt strangely familiar. The woman slowly knelt before the boy. "You remember the promise?" The child nodded. She gently kissed his forehead. Then she stood. "You may take him." Kael stepped forward carefully. "Who are you?" She smiled sadly. "A promise." Before he could ask another question, an arrow suddenly burst from the trees. It pierced her chest. Her body jerked backward. The child screamed. Kael caught the woman before she struck the frozen ground. Blood spread quickly across the snow. She struggled to breathe. "They found us." Kael turned sharply. Dark figures poured from the surrounding forest. Masked warriors. Dozens of them. More arrows filled the sky. Rowan and the others rushed onto the mountain path. Battle erupted instantly. Steel clashed against steel. Snow turned crimson beneath falling bodies. Kael shielded the child with his own cloak while fighting through wave after wave of attackers. The dying woman reached weakly toward him. "There is something." Kael leaned closer. The child, her breathing grew weaker. "Is not." She coughed blood across the snow. "Darius's son." Kael stared at her. She forced herself to whisper one final sentence. "Tell Lyra he belongs." Her eyes slowly closed before the last word escaped. She died with the secret still trapped on her lips. Kael looked down at the frightened little boy, now clinging tightly to his leg. The child looked up with tear-filled gray eyes. For one impossible moment Kael saw his own reflection in them, before he could understand why another horn echoed through the mountains. Rowan fought his way toward him. "My king!" Kael looked up. More enemy riders were climbing the cliffs from every direction. Hundreds of them. The rescue had become a trap, and somewhere in the confusion one shadow quietly watched the little boy with a satisfied smile. Because the true hunt had never been about capturing the child. It had always been about leading the Alpha King exactly where they wanted him. The mountain echoed with the sound of steel and thunder. Snow burst into the air beneath charging horses. Warriors shouted across the cliffs, while arrows cut through the frozen wind. The hidden valley that had sheltered innocent families only moments before had become another battlefield. Fear spread faster than fire. Mothers gathered frightened children into their arms. The elderly searched desperately for shelter among the rocks. No one had expected death to find them again. Kael stood at the center of the chaos with the little boy protected behind him. His black cloak spread wide as he blocked another rain of arrows. One shaft struck his shoulder guard and shattered against the iron. Another sliced across his arm, drawing a thin line of blood. He never looked away from the child. The little boy gripped the back of Kael's cloak with both hands. His small body trembled, yet he made no sound. Even surrounded by violence, he remained astonishingly brave. Rowan fought his way toward them, his sword stained red from battle. "My king!" Kael struck down another attacker before answering. "We cannot stay here. There are too many." Kael glanced toward the narrow mountain trail behind them. "We break through." The warriors closed around the child while Kael led the charge. Snow exploded beneath heavy boots as they forced their way through the enemy line. Steel clashed against steel. Wolves shifted into massive beasts, crashing through frozen trees and scattering attackers in every direction. The mountain itself seemed to shake beneath the fury of the battle. At last they reached the lower forest, where their horses waited hidden among the pines. Kael lifted the frightened boy into his saddle. "You stay with me." The child nodded without speaking. They rode through the blizzard until darkness swallowed the mountains behind them. Only after several hours did they stop inside an abandoned hunting cabin buried deep within the forest. The fire crackled softly as exhausted warriors rested for the first time since dawn. Kael sat across from the little boy. For several long moments neither of them spoke. The child quietly studied his face. Then he asked the question that stole every voice inside the room. "Are you the wolf my mother told me about?" Kael frowned. "What did she tell you?" The boy smiled faintly. "She said one day a black wolf would come through the snow." Kael leaned forward. "And then?" "He would protect me." Silence settled over the cabin. Rowan slowly looked toward his king. Kael forced himself to remain calm. "Did she tell you his name?" The boy shook his head. "Only that I should trust him." Kael looked into those bright gray eyes once more. Something about them refused to let him look away. It felt like staring into a forgotten memory. Early the next morning they returned to Ashbourne Castle. The gates opened quickly. News of their arrival spread through every corridor. Lyra ran before anyone could stop her. She reached the great hall, just as Kael stepped through the entrance carrying the little boy in his arms. Everything around her disappeared. She saw only him, her son. Tears flooded her eyes. "My baby." The little boy turned. The moment he recognized her voice, he threw himself toward her. "Mother." Lyra caught him tightly against her chest. She cried without shame. She kissed his forehead again and again as though afraid he might disappear if she stopped touching him. The child buried his face against her shoulder. "I missed you. I know. I thought you were gone. I will never leave you again." Every servant watching the reunion quietly wiped away tears. Even Rowan turned his face toward the window. Kael stood motionless. For the first time in many years, he felt like an outsider inside his own castle. Watching the love between mother and son awakened something painfully empty within him. Later that evening, Lyra sat beside the fire while Prince Elias slept peacefully beneath thick blankets. Kael entered quietly. She looked up. "You brought him home. I gave my word. You risked your life. I would do it again." Lyra smiled with quiet gratitude. "You still have questions?" "I do." She gently brushed a strand of hair away from Elias's forehead. "What do you want to know?" "The woman who protected him." Lyra's smile faded. "Mira! You knew her." "She was my closest friend." Kael slowly sat across from her. "Before she died, she tried to tell me something." Lyra remained silent. She said Elias was not Darius's son. The room became completely still. The fire cracked softly between them. Lyra lowered her eyes. "I know." Kael stared at her. "You knew." She nodded. "I always knew." His voice grew colder. "Then who is his father?" Lyra looked toward the sleeping child. "I cannot answer." "Why?" "Because the moment I do his life changes forever." Kael stood. "I have protected you." "I know." "I brought your son home." "I know." "Then tell me." She slowly rose to face him. Pain filled her eyes. "I cannot." Frustration finally escaped him. "Did you ever love Darius?" Her answer came without hesitation. "No." "Then why marry him?" Tears quietly formed in her eyes. "Because they gave me no choice." Kael froze. "They threatened everyone I loved." She looked toward Elias. "They promised they would kill my child before he was even born." The words struck him like a hammer. "I agreed to the marriage because it was the only way to keep him alive." Kael said nothing. Everything he had believed for years suddenly began falling apart. She had not chosen Darius. She had sacrificed herself. His mind returned to the day he first heard of her wedding. The anger, the disappointment, the belief that she had abandoned fate, all of it had been built upon a lie. That night Kael walked alone through the frozen castle gardens. Snow covered every path. Moonlight reflected across the icy lake. The world stood silent. Suddenly another memory flashed before his eyes. A little girl standing beside that very lake. Silver blonde hair, dancing in the winter wind. She laughed as she held out a small carved wooden wolf. "For you." A young boy accepted the gift. "I will keep it forever." "You promise." "I promise." The memory vanished. Kael staggered. His heart pounded wildly. That little boy had been him. The little girl had been Lyra. They had met before. Long before either of them understood the meaning of fate. Someone had stolen those memories from him. Someone had wanted him to forget her. His breathing became heavy. He rushed back inside the castle. He searched every old chest inside his private chambers. Hours passed. Then he found it. Hidden beneath old hunting cloaks rested a small wooden wolf, worn by time, cracked with age, exactly as it had appeared in the memory. His hands began to shake. The memory had been real. He had known Lyra as a child. He had promised never to forget her. Yet somehow he had. As dawn approached, Kael stood outside Lyra's chamber, holding the tiny wooden wolf. He wanted to knock. He wanted to tell her everything. He wanted to apologize for every cruel word he had spoken. Before he could move, Elder Celine hurried through the corridor. Her face had lost all color. "My king, what happened?" She struggled to catch her breath. "I have finished examining Prince Elias." Kael frowned. "And?" Celine looked directly into his eyes. "There is something you must see." She gently lifted the sleeping child's tiny hand. A faint birthmark rested near his wrist, the shape of a crescent moon. Kael's heartbeat stopped. He slowly looked down at his own wrist. Hidden beneath the leather guard rested the exact same crescent mark, perfectly identical. The old healer whispered the words that shattered everything Kael believed about his past. There is no longer any doubt. The room fell into complete silence. Then Selene spoke the truth that changed Kael's life forever. Elias carries the blood of House Ashbourne. He is your son. The words refused to leave Kael's mind. He is your son. They echoed through every heartbeat until the entire world seemed to disappear around him. The corridor faded. The castle walls faded. Even the cold winter air became distant. Only one truth remained. Elias was not the child of Alpha Darius. He was his son. Kael looked from the sleeping boy to the crescent mark on his own wrist. The shape was identical. Every Alpha of House Ashbourne had carried that mark for generations. It was impossible to copy, impossible to fake. Yet there it was, on the tiny hand of the child he had sworn to protect. His knees suddenly felt weak. For the first time since becoming Alpha King, he questioned everything he remembered about his own life. He slowly looked toward Elder Selene. How? The old healer lowered her eyes. I prayed this day would come only after the kingdom was safe. You already knew. She nodded. I suspected it from the first moment I saw the child. Kael's voice became quiet. Then why did you stay silent? Because truth without proof destroys lives. She looked toward Elias with deep affection. I needed certainty before placing a crown upon an innocent child. Kael closed his eyes. His wolf cried inside him. Not with rage, with grief. He remembered every cruel word he had spoken to Lyra. Every accusation. Every cold glance. Every moment he had believed she had willingly chosen another man. He had rejected the very woman who had spent years protecting their son. The weight of that realization became almost unbearable. Without another word, Kael walked through the silent corridors until he reached Lyra's chamber. The wooden wolf carving remained tightly held inside his hand. He raised his fist to knock, then stopped. What could he possibly say? Forgive me. The words felt too small. Nothing could erase the years she had suffered alone. He slowly lowered his hand and walked away. Inside the room, Lyra stood beside the window, watching the first light of dawn touch the snow-covered mountains. She had sensed Kael outside her door. She had also sensed him leave. A quiet sadness settled inside her heart. She whispered softly to herself, "You are still afraid?" Later that morning the royal council gathered once again. The atmosphere inside the great hall had grown darker than ever. Nobles argued loudly. Generals demanded answers. The attempted assassination inside the castle had destroyed every remaining sense of security. The eldest council elder struck his staff against the stone floor. "The enemy walks among us." Another elder nodded. "A traitor opened the gates for the assassin." A third added, "And now the enemy child lives beneath this roof." Kael entered without announcing himself. Silence immediately filled the hall. He walked slowly toward the throne. Every noble watched him carefully. The eldest elder spoke first. "Your Majesty." Kael remained standing. "You wish to speak of the child?" The elder nodded. "The kingdom demands his removal." Kael's gray eyes became as cold as winter itself. "No." Murmurs spread through the hall. The elder continued. "He carries Blackmore blood." Kael looked directly at him. "You are mistaken." The room grew still. No one understood what he meant. Kael did not explain. Not yet. The truth was too dangerous. If the wrong ears heard it first, Elias would never survive another day. Instead, Kael issued a new command. "Until further notice, no one enters or leaves this castle without my permission." The council protested immediately. "You cannot imprison the kingdom." "I can." His voice carried unquestionable authority. "And I just did." No one dared challenge him again. Far beyond the castle walls, another story was beginning. Deep inside the northern mountains, Lyra quietly followed Elder Selene through a narrow cave hidden beneath thick sheets of ice. Water dripped slowly from the frozen ceiling. Ancient stone carvings covered the walls. The deeper they walked, the older the place became. Finally, they reached a vast underground chamber illuminated by shafts of pale sunlight breaking through cracks in the ice above. At the center stood a stone pedestal. Resting upon it was an ancient silver crown, unlike any royal crown worn in the present kingdoms. Its design resembled flowing branches wrapped around a crescent moon. Lyra stared silently. "What is this place?" Selene smiled gently. "The first throne of the moon crown." Lyra stepped closer. The moment her fingers brushed the ancient crown, something extraordinary happened. A deep vibration spread through the chamber. The frozen walls began glowing with soft silver light. Dust fell from the ceiling. The air itself seemed alive. Outside, the cave wolves hidden throughout the mountains suddenly lifted their heads toward the sky. One by one they began running. From distant forests, from frozen valleys, from forgotten caves, old wolves, young wolves, lone wolves, entire packs, drawn by something older than instinct. Inside the chamber, Lyra quickly stepped back. What is happening? Celine watched calmly. They have felt your blood awaken. I do not understand. You are not becoming their queen. She gently looked into Lyra's frightened eyes. You have always been their queen. Hours later, Kael stood upon the western castle wall, watching another snowstorm approach. Commander Rowan climbed the stairs, carrying troubling news. My king! Kael turned. What now? Our scouts have returned. What do they see? Rowan hesitated. I do not know how to explain it. Try. Wolf packs. Kael frowned. How many? Hundreds. Where? They are all traveling north. Kael narrowed his eyes. For what reason? They are not hunting. Rowan looked genuinely confused. They are gathering. Kael felt a strange unease settle inside him. Every wolf pack in the northern kingdoms had remained divided for generations. They had never gathered together peacefully. Never. Something powerful was calling them. Something ancient. Before either man spoke again, another scout rushed through the courtyard below. He barely paused to breathe. My king! Kael immediately descended from the wall. What happened? The wolves. What about them? They have stopped moving. Where? They are kneeling. Kael stared at him. Kneeling. The young scout nodded. Every single pack. Before whom? The scout swallowed hard. We followed them. His breathing remained uneven. They entered an ancient cave beneath the Frostvale mountains. And the scout looked directly into Kael's eyes. They are kneeling before Lady Lyra. Silence swept across the courtyard. Even the wind seemed to disappear. Kael immediately mounted his horse. Prepare the riders. Within minutes he raced toward the mountains with Rowan close behind. Night had already fallen by the time they reached the hidden valley. Torches illuminated the icy cliffs. Kael climbed the final ridge. Then he stopped. The sight before him stole every remaining breath from his body. Thousands of wolves filled the valley. Gray wolves, black wolves, white wolves, massive alphas, young warriors, old guardians, every pack from every corner of the northern kingdoms. None of them fought. None of them growled. They remained perfectly still, all facing one woman. Lyra stood upon a stone platform wearing the ancient silver crown. The icy wind lifted her silver hair behind her. Moonlight reflected across the crown until she seemed born from winter itself. Then something even more astonishing happened. One by one the alpha wolves lowered their heads. Then every warrior followed. Thousands knelt together. Not before a king. Before Lyra. Kael felt the truth settle inside his soul. She had never needed anyone to give her power. It had always belonged to her. As he stepped forward through the silent crowd, a calm voice echoed from the darkness behind him. You finally remember who she is. Kael turned sharply. An old man wrapped in white wolf fur stood at the edge of the valley. His silver eyes never left the king. Then he spoke the words that opened another terrifying mystery. I am the one who erased your memories, and I did it to save both of your lives. The valley fell into complete silence after the old man's confession. Even the wolves stopped breathing for a moment. Moonlight spread across the endless snow, while thousands of glowing eyes remained fixed on the stranger standing beneath the frozen cliffs. His white fur cloak moved gently in the cold wind. His face carried the weight of many winters. There was no fear inside him, only sadness. It was the sadness of a man who had protected a secret for far too long. Kael stepped forward without taking his eyes off the stranger. You erased my memories. The old man slowly nodded. I did. Kael's voice hardened. You stole years of my life. I saved them. You separated me from my mate. I kept both of you alive. The wolves around them remained perfectly still. No one dared interrupt. Kael tightened his fists. Who are you? My name is Aldrin. The old man bowed his head toward Lyra. I was the last royal guardian of the moon crown. Lyra looked at him with surprise. You knew my mother. A gentle smile appeared on Aldrin's face. I held you in my arms on the night you were born. Tears quietly gathered in Lyra's eyes. You are alive. I promised your mother I would protect you until the truth returned. Kael took another step. Then tell me everything. Aldrin looked toward the stars before speaking. 25 years ago the moon crown was not destroyed by enemies from outside. His eyes slowly returned to Kael. It was betrayed from within. Those words echoed across the valley. Kael felt his heart sink. What do you mean? The people who murdered Queen Elena were trusted members of the royal court. Lyra covered her mouth. No. They opened the palace gates. They poisoned loyal warriors. They burned the royal castle. And then they blamed another kingdom. Kael remained silent. Everything he had believed about history began falling apart. Aldrin continued. The war between Ashbourne and Blackmoor began because someone wanted both kingdoms distracted while the true killers built power in the shadows. The cold wind swept across the valley once again. For years Kael had hunted enemies who had never started the war. Someone else had manipulated every kingdom from the beginning. Lyra slowly stepped closer. My mother! Aldrin closed his eyes. She escaped with you. What happened to her? She gave her life so you could disappear. A single tear rolled down Lyra's cheek. She had spent her entire life searching for answers. Now every answer came wrapped in unbearable pain. Aldrin reached inside his cloak. He removed a weathered leather scroll sealed with silver wax. I have protected this since the night your mother died. He placed it into Lyra's hands. It belongs to the last queen. Lyra carefully broke the seal. Inside rested a letter written in elegant handwriting. Her hands trembled as she began reading. The first line stole her breath. My dearest daughter. Tears blurred her vision immediately. She continued reading silently. Her mother spoke of love, of sacrifice, of betrayal. She warned that trusted faces would become the greatest enemies. She begged Lyra never to seek revenge before discovering the truth. Then came the final sentence. Trust the Black Wolf, because one day he will remember you again. Lyra lowered the letter against her heart. Her mother had believed in Kael even before death. At that very moment another rider appeared at the edge of the valley. His horse struggled through the deep snow before collapsing from exhaustion. The rider stumbled forward. My king! Kael recognized one of his royal scouts. The young warrior could barely breathe. The castle! Kael immediately walked toward him. What happened? The council! What about them? They have seized control. Kael's eyes narrowed. The scout swallowed painfully. They told the kingdom you abandoned your throne. They declared you unfit to rule. Rowan stepped forward. Who gave that order? The High Council. Kael immediately understood. Everything had been planned. While he searched for truth, someone had begun stealing his kingdom. The scout struggled to continue. There is more. Kael waited. They arrested everyone loyal to you. What about Elder Selene? They locked her beneath the western tower. Kael felt anger rising inside him. And my son? The scout looked down. They searched every room. They could not find Prince Elias. Kael looked sharply toward Rowan. You moved him. Rowan slowly shook his head. No. Neither man spoke. If Rowan had not hidden Elias, then someone else had taken him. Lyra stepped closer. Where is my son? The scout remained silent. Fear spread through her entire body. She grabbed the young warrior by both shoulders. Answer me. His eyes filled with shame. No one knows. Lyra slowly released him. The world around her seemed to disappear. Not again. Not her child. She had already lost him once. She could not survive losing him twice. Kael placed one hand gently on her shoulder. I will find him. Before she could answer, another voice echoed from behind the gathered wolves. There will be no need. Everyone turned. Commander Rowan stood frozen. His sword slowly slipped from his hand. A familiar figure walked from the darkness beside him. The eldest council elder. His face no longer carried the kindness of an old advisor. Only cold satisfaction. He smiled as dozens of armed warriors emerged from the surrounding forest. Not ordinary soldiers. Elite assassins dressed entirely in black. The elder looked directly at Kael. You always were too honorable. Kael stared back. You. The old man laughed quietly. Did you truly believe one kingdom could remain at war for 25 years without someone feeding both sides? Everything suddenly became clear. The false reports, the missing memories, the assassination, the stolen necklace, the attacks. The council had never been trying to protect the kingdom. They had been protecting themselves. The elder slowly began clapping. I must admit, his smile widened. You came much closer to the truth than I expected. Lyra stepped beside Kael. You murdered my mother. I watched her die. You stole my kingdom. I improved it. You hunted my son. He is far too valuable to leave alive. Kael's wolf growled deep inside his chest. Where is Elias? The elder's smile never faded. Safe. You lie. I always do. The assassins slowly surrounded the valley. Every escape closed. The wolves bared their teeth. The air itself seemed ready to explode. Then the elder looked directly at Lyra. I have waited 25 years to finish what I started. Before anyone could move, he raised one hand. Hidden archers appeared along the cliffs above. Hundreds of arrows pointed toward the valley. Not toward Kael. Not toward the wolves. Toward Lyra. Kael instantly stepped in front of her. His voice thundered across the valley. Run! The wolves roared together. Chaos erupted. Arrows darkened the sky. Steel flashed beneath the moon. The valley became another battlefield. Kael fought through wave after wave of assassins while desperately searching for Lyra in the confusion. For one brief moment he saw her. She was only a few steps away. Then thick smoke exploded across the snow. The entire valley disappeared beneath a wall of gray mist. Voices echoed from every direction. Wolves howled. Warriors shouted. Then everything became silent. The wind slowly carried the smoke away. Kael looked around wildly. The assassins were gone. The elder had vanished. And so had Lyra. Only one silver ribbon, torn from her cloak, remained lying alone upon the blood-stained snow. The silver ribbon rested in Kael's hand long after the battle had ended. Snow continued to fall across the valley, covering the footprints of warriors and assassins alike. The wolves searched every cliff, every cave, and every frozen stream, yet they found nothing. It was as though Lyra had vanished into the mountain itself. The silence that followed was more painful than the battle. Kael had survived countless wars, but he had never felt so powerless. For the second time in his life, the woman fate had chosen for him had disappeared while he stood helpless only a few steps away. Rowan approached, quietly with blood staining one side of his armor. We tracked them as far as the eastern ridge. Kael looked up. And the trail ends there. Kael closed his hand around the torn ribbon. No. Rowan frowned. My king. They wanted us to find that trail. Rowan slowly understood. A false path. Kael nodded. The council elder has spent 25 years staying ahead of everyone. He would never leave real tracks. Aldrin stepped forward from the gathered wolves. He is right. The old guardian knelt beside the snow where the smoke had covered the battlefield. He touched the frozen ground. Then he smiled for the first time. They made one mistake. Kael looked toward him. What did you find? Aldrin held up a small piece of black crystal no larger than a fingernail. This stone comes from only one place. The Shadow Fortress. Rowan's expression darkened. I thought that place was abandoned. It was. Aldrin slowly stood until the traders rebuilt it beneath the ruins. Kael immediately turned toward his warriors. We ride before sunrise. Hours later, Ashbourne Castle came into view beneath heavy gray skies. The gates remained closed. Black banners now hung from the towers where the royal wolf banner had once flown. The kingdom had changed while its king had been away. Smoke rose from homes beyond the walls. Guards wearing the council colors patrolled every street. The people walked with lowered heads. Fear ruled the kingdom now. Kael watched from the nearby forest. They turned my home into a prison. Rowan quietly nodded. They believe you abandoned them. Kael's jaw tightened. Then it is time they hear the truth. As darkness covered the city, Kael and a handful of loyal warriors entered through forgotten tunnels beneath the castle. The underground passages smelled of damp stone and old memories. Every step carried them deeper beneath the fortress, where Ashbourne kings had once hidden during ancient wars. At the end of the tunnel they reached the western tower. Rowan carefully opened the iron door. Inside the dark prison sat Elder Selene. Chains covered her wrists. Her face looked tired, yet the moment she saw Kael she smiled. I knew you would return. Kael quickly broke the chains. Can you walk? I have survived worse. They helped her to her feet. Celine looked around carefully before speaking. The council elder is no longer in the castle. I know. They took Lyra to the Shadow Fortress. Kael nodded. We are going after her. Celine gently touched his arm. There is something more. She reached beneath her worn cloak and removed the silver necklace stolen from Lyra. Kael stared in disbelief. How? The assassin delivered it to the council. They never understood what they had stolen. She placed it carefully into Kael's hands. It was never an ordinary necklace. She pressed a hidden catch along its edge. The silver pendant slowly opened. Inside rested a folded piece of parchment no larger than a leaf. Kael carefully unfolded it. A detailed map appeared before his eyes. Hidden beneath mountains, across frozen rivers, through forgotten caves, every secret path leading directly into the Shadow Fortress. Rowan looked amazed. This changes everything. Celine nodded. Queen Elena prepared for this day long before she died. Far away inside the Shadow Fortress, Lyra slowly opened her eyes. Cold stones surrounded her. Heavy iron chains bound her wrists. The room carried no windows. Only a single torch burned outside the cell. She sat quietly. Fear no longer ruled her heart. She had spent years running, years hiding, years surviving. Those years were over. Footsteps echoed through the corridor. The council elder appeared, carrying the ancient silver crown in one hand. His smile was calm. You look exactly like your mother. Lyra remained silent. He stopped before the cell. She also believed hope could defeat power. You murdered her. I removed an obstacle. You destroyed kingdoms. I built them. Lyra slowly stood despite the chains. No. Her voice remained steady. You built lies. For the first time his smile faded. You still have courage. I still have truth. He laughed quietly. Truth belongs to whoever survives. He unlocked the cell. Several guards pulled Lyra into a vast stone courtyard at the center of the fortress. Hundreds of soldiers gathered around wooden platforms, built above the snow. Prisoners filled iron cages nearby. Kael's loyal warriors. Village elders. Families who had refused to support the council. The people looked broken. The council elder climbed onto the highest platform. His voice echoed across the fortress. Today the last princess dies. A frightened murmur spread through the crowd. Many had never even known a princess still lived. Lyra lifted her head proudly. The silver chains hanging from her wrists reflected the pale winter sunlight. She looked nothing like a defeated prisoner. She looked like a queen waiting for the right moment. The elder raised the ancient crown. This crown ends today. Before he could continue, a deep horn echoed across the mountains. Once. Twice. Again. Every soldier looked toward the fortress gates. The massive wooden doors shook violently. Another horn sounded. Then another. The gates burst open beneath the force of a giant battering ram. Ashbourne warriors charged into the fortress like a storm. Black wolves leaped over broken walls. Ancient wolf packs followed behind them. The battle began before anyone could react. Kael rode through the shattered gates at the front of the attack. His black cloak streamed behind him. His sword flashed beneath the winter sun. Every swing drove the enemy backward. The people trapped inside the cages began shouting with hope. The king! The king has returned! Chaos spread across the fortress. The council elder backed away in disbelief. You found this place. Kael pointed his sword directly at him. You left too many lies behind. The old traitor snarled. Kill them all. The battle exploded through every courtyard. Steel rang against steel. Snow turned red beneath charging warriors. Wolves fought beside humans. The fortress that had hidden evil for 25 years began falling apart stone by stone. Kael reached Lyra's chains. One powerful strike shattered the iron. She looked into his eyes. For one heartbeat the battle disappeared. I knew you would come. Kael gently touched her face. I should have come years ago. He handed her the ancient silver crown. It belongs to its true queen. Lyra accepted it with steady hands. She slowly placed the crown upon her head. At that exact moment something extraordinary happened. The winter wind stopped. Dark clouds parted above the fortress. A brilliant beam of sunlight broke through the sky and fell directly upon Lyra. Every wolf inside the fortress suddenly lowered its head. Even Kael's wolf bowed in silent respect. The frightened prisoners looked toward her with tears in their eyes. One elderly woman slowly fell to her knees. Then another. Within seconds, hundreds of voices echoed across the fortress. "Our queen! Our queen! Our queen!" The sound grew louder until it shook the frozen mountains themselves. The council elder stepped backward in horror. For the first time in 25 years, he realized he had not destroyed the moon crown. He had only delayed its return. Before anyone could celebrate, another desperate voice echoed across the battlefield. It came from a frightened servant running from the eastern tower. She could barely breathe. "My queen!" Lyra turned immediately. The young servant collapsed onto the snow. "They have the little prince." Silence fell across the battlefield. The servant looked directly at Lyra with tears streaming down her face. "They have taken Elias to the highest tower, and they say if anyone climbs the stairs, the child dies." The celebration vanished as quickly as it had begun. Only moments earlier the people had cried out for their queen. Hope had returned to the kingdom for the first time in a generation. Now fear swept across the fortress once again. Every eye turned toward the tallest tower rising above the broken walls. Its dark stone disappeared into the gray winter sky like a spear aimed at the heavens. Somewhere inside that tower Prince Elias was waiting. Kael looked toward Lyra. She did not cry. She did not panic. She simply closed her eyes for one brief moment and took a slow breath. When she opened them again, the frightened woman who had once been abandoned in the snow no longer existed. Only a queen remained. She looked toward the terrified servant. "Who took him?" The young woman struggled to steady her breathing. "The council elder escaped through the eastern passage. He has only a few guards. He said no army would ever reach the top." Kael immediately turned toward Rowan. "Seal every exit." Rowan nodded. "No one leaves this fortress alive." Warriors rushed through the ruined courtyard while wolves spread across every hidden tunnel beneath the fortress. The battle outside had almost ended, yet the most important fight had only begun. Kael reached for Lyra's hand. "We climbed together." She looked at him quietly. "No." He frowned. "He is our son." "I know." "Then we face this together." A faint smile appeared on her face. "And we will." Without another word, they entered the ancient tower. The staircase wound upward in a tight spiral. Narrow windows allowed strips of pale winter light to fall across the worn stone steps. The silence inside felt unnatural. No guards waited. No traps appeared. Only the echo of their footsteps followed them higher and higher. Kael never lowered his sword. His instincts warned him that something was wrong. Very wrong. Halfway up the tower, Aldrin suddenly stopped. He had quietly joined them without anyone noticing. His silver eyes studied the wall beside the staircase. There. Kael walked closer. A strange symbol had been carved into the stone. The same ancient mark he had seen inside the old archives. Aldrin touched it gently. "The curse." Kael looked toward him. "What curse?" "The one that destroyed the moon crown." The old guardian closed his eyes. "It was never only a war. It was dark magic." Lyra slowly stepped beside him. "My mother wrote about a curse." Aldrin nodded. "The traitors could never defeat your bloodline by force. So they stole memories. They poisoned trust. They turned families against one another." Kael felt cold anger rise inside him. "They erased my memories of Lyra. They made me reject my own mate. They wanted the moon crown to disappear forever." Aldrin looked directly at him. "They feared what would happen if the blood of Ashbourne and the blood of the moon crown ever united." Kael looked toward Lyra, then toward the tower above. "Our son." Aldrin nodded. "Elias is the child the prophecy spoke of." Before anyone could say another word, a child's frightened voice echoed from above. "Mother!" Lyra's entire body froze. "Elias, I am here." Her voice trembled despite every effort to remain calm. "We are coming." A cruel laugh answered instead. The council elder stepped into view at the top of the staircase. His white robes were stained with blood from the battle below. One hand rested on Elias's shoulder. The other held a sharp blade against the child's neck. The little boy stood bravely despite the tears filling his eyes. The elder smiled. "I knew you would come." Kael slowly raised his sword. "Let him go." The old man laughed. "You still believe the story ends with heroes winning." Lyra climbed another step. "It ends today." "It already did." The elder pointed toward the floor beneath them. "One more step. The tower falls." Kael looked down. Thin cracks spread across the ancient stone. Hidden explosives made from black powder filled the lower chamber. The tower had been prepared long before they arrived. The elder had never planned to escape. He intended to bury everyone beneath the mountain. Lyra slowly removed the ancient silver crown from her head. She held it carefully in both hands. "You wanted this." The elder's eyes followed the crown. "It belongs to me." "No." She smiled gently. "It never did." Without warning, she threw the crown across the room. The elder reacted without thinking. His hand reached toward it. For the briefest moment the blade left Elias's neck. Kael moved. He crossed the remaining stairs faster than the eye could follow. His shoulder slammed into the old traitor with enough force to send both men crashing across the stone floor. The knife skidded away. Lyra caught Elias before he could fall. She wrapped both arms around him. "My little wolf." The child buried his face against her. "I knew you would find me. I always will." Behind them Kael and the elder struggled across the floor. Years of hatred exploded inside one final battle. The old traitor grabbed another hidden dagger. He lunged forward. Kael caught his wrist. The two men fought with desperate strength until the elder suddenly laughed. "You are too late." He pointed toward the burning fuse disappearing into the lower tower. The black powder had already ignited. Flames raced toward the explosives. Only seconds remained. Aldrin looked toward the burning fuse, then toward Lyra and Elias. His expression became peaceful. "I made a promise." Before anyone understood what he intended, he ran toward the staircase. He tore a heavy support beam free from the wall. The ancient stones shifted. The burning fuse disappeared beneath tons of collapsing rock. A deafening crash shook the tower. Dust filled the air. When the silence finally returned, Aldrin was gone. The fallen stones had sealed the explosion beneath the fortress. He had given his life to save them all. Lyra fell to her knees. Tears streamed down her face. He kept his promise. Kael gently lowered his head. The kingdom will remember his name forever. The council elder struggled to stand one final time. His face had lost every trace of pride. He looked toward Lyra. "I should have killed you when you were a child." Kael stepped between them. "No." His voice remained calm. "You have taken enough." The elder reached for another weapon. He never touched it. Rowan entered the tower with loyal warriors behind him. The old traitor was surrounded. For the first time in 25 years, there was nowhere left to run. The people gathered in the fortress courtyard before sunset. Snow continued falling softly around them. Prisoners had been freed. Families embraced once more. The remaining members of the corrupt council were brought forward in chains. No one shouted. No one demanded revenge. They wanted truth. Kael stepped beside Lyra before the entire kingdom. He looked across the silent crowd. "For many years I believed lies. I rejected the woman chosen by fate. I judged her without knowing her sacrifice." He slowly turned toward Lyra. Then he did something no Alpha King had ever done before. He knelt. Before his queen. Before his mate. Before the mother of his son. Every person watching gasped. Kael bowed his head. "I cannot erase your pain. I cannot return the years stolen from us. But before every kingdom gathered here today, I ask for your forgiveness." Complete silence followed. Lyra gently stepped closer. She placed one hand beneath his chin. Then she lifted his face. Her eyes shone with quiet tears. "We both lost those years." Her voice carried across the courtyard. "We will not lose another." She leaned forward and embraced him. The crowd erupted. Warriors raised their swords. The wolves howled toward the winter sky. Children laughed. Families cried. For the first time in a generation, the kingdom celebrated not a victory in war but the return of hope. As the sun slowly disappeared behind the snowy mountains, Elias reached for both of their hands. Kael lifted his son into his arms. Lyra smiled through her tears. The broken family finally stood together. Yet as the first stars appeared above the kingdom, Elder Selene quietly approached with a peaceful smile. She looked toward the ancient silver crown, resting once again upon Lyra's head, then toward the horizon where a new dawn waited. "The prophecy is complete." She gently placed a tiny bundle wrapped in white fur into Lyra's arms. Inside slept a newborn baby girl rescued from the hidden chambers beneath the fortress during the battle. As the infant slowly opened her eyes, everyone around her fell silent. Her eyes were not blue. They shimmered with bright silver. Exactly as the oldest moon crown prophecy had foretold, the ancient bloodline had not merely survived. It had begun again,